Hi. So, you're out for a night on the town with 3 of your friends, and you guys sit down to eat. And one of them orders one of those charcuterie boards with cheese on it, and you guys start talking about dairy. One of them says they drink raw milk. Is it gross? We'll see. One of them says they drink pasteurized, and the third thinks you're all crazy because we shouldn't be drinking cow's milk. We're human beings, of course. So, where do you fall in the dairy debate? Well, I'm Honest Chrissy, and I've waded through a ton of research so that you don't have to. I've narrowed it down to 3 main points for you to consider. So, let's dig in. Let's go over the first bullet point. We're going to talk about gut dysbiosis, or better known as leaky gut. All right, so what is leaky gut? Our intestines have a lining that keeps all of our food, all of the bacteria in. Now, if there are holes that are in the lining, some of that food and bacteria can get into our bloodstream. So when we're talking about dairy, if the protein that's kind of harder to digest, like gluten, enters into the bloodstream, the body can recognize it as an invader, and it labels it. It actually puts a label so that the cells, when they see it in your system, know to immediately attack it. And that's how we get a lot of allergies. So if you have leaky gut, if your gut is inflamed, it's probably not a good idea to have dairy until you get that back healthy. And once you get it healthy again and your system is calmed down, your immune isn't going crazy, you can probably reintroduce dairy with success. So how do you know if you have leaky gut? Well, I'm gonna get up close and personal here. It has to do with your poop. So keep an eye out. Every bowel movement, look at it. I know that sounds gross, but our bowel movements are a huge indicator of how we're doing health-wise. If it's loose, if it's sandy, black, green, light colored all the time, the black is especially worrying. Those are all indicators that something's going on, that you may have an allergy or you're not digesting things properly. There's inflammation going on. So look out for that. But if you have diarrhea on a regular basis, you definitely have inflammation. So what I suggest is going back, and I'm not gonna go into this in this vlog, but you need to heal your gut first, and then maybe reintroduce dairy. The second bullet point, should we be drinking raw or pasteurized dairy? I'm not gonna sit here and go into all the intricacies of it because it's gonna take hours, and we don't wanna sit here for that. So I'm gonna do some pros and cons. I have a pro for pasteurized milk. It doesn't have bad bacteria, it's been killed off. That's a pro, right? Wrong. That pasteurization process kills all the good stuff with it too. And the bacteria, the immunoglobulins, the enzymes, all that are necessary to break down everything that's in that milk and help you digest it. So the pro of raw dairy having all that good bacteria and enzymes is great, but we also have to worry about the non-pasteurization of it and not killing off any contamination with bad bacteria. So what do you do, and what do you look for? So let's go over the ABCs of what to consider when you're buying raw milk, if you can, in your state, if it's legal. A, diet. What they eat is what you drink. So watch out for anything that has hormones or antibiotics. Those are gonna be in it. Also, grass-fed, because the bad bacteria, especially Escherichia E. coli, actually feed on digesting grains in the stomach. So we don't want that to come out and then somehow contaminate the milk. B, handling practices. So I don't particularly trust the equipment that they use to milk cows because it's reused over and over and it gets really damp and can harbor some bacteria. So I'm gonna go old-fashioned and say that I prefer hand milking. I know that sounds crazy because who hand milks in this day and age? Well, I think a lot of small farmers, and it would be great to contact them to put out feelers with some health food stores, see if you can find somebody, and that really helps with your local economy too. C, knowing that the risk is actually low. There's been a lot of scare tactics out there about the risk of getting contaminated milk with all this bad bacteria. But really, contamination happens in everything. It happens in lettuces, you've seen that on the news a lot, and yet lettuce isn't banned because it's healthy, right? And we just need to make sure it's clean. Should be the same with milk. The third and very important topic in considering whether you should have dairy in your diet is the beta-casein protein in milk. And it's separated into two different types of beta-casein called A1 and A2. Beta-casein is simply a protein found in milk that we digest. There are two different types, A1 and A2. Most of our milk is a mixture because with genetics you can have both A1 and A2. However, studies have shown that when people are drinking an A1, A2 mixed dairy, they have higher inflammation markers in their urine compared to the A2 people. They just drank A2 milk, they didn't have any increase at all. So why and what does this mean? Have you seen the black and white spotted cows everywhere in our country? Well, they're Holstein cows and they produce most of our milk in the grocery stores. And that's because they have A1 beta-casein. It makes them produce more milk. And while this is good for selling, for our economy, for these big businesses selling milk, that's great. And small dairy farmers with Holsteins as well. However, the Guernsey and Jersey cows that have more A2, and they typically have the A2 gene, so that's all A2, they have the healthiest milk for us. Now, why is that? So this is really important, so pay attention. A1 beta-casein is attached to something called histidine, and that's what causes some inflammation in our system and symptoms like hay fever. For example, when I go out to eat and have processed dairy, my nose immediately gets stuffy. And I never knew why until I realized this about A1 milk. A2, instead of having histidine attached to its protein, has something called proline. And that is not inflammatory. It's actually good for your system. So what have we learned? It's hugely important to know where your milk comes from, know what kind of cows they're coming from, and the handling practices, the diet that they give the cow. We need to actually put effort into knowing what our food is eating, what our drink is eating, because we're taking in all that. So go check out farms, ask people that you know where they get their milk from. Lastly, are you even able to handle dairy? Do you have leaky gut? Do you need to fix your system? If so, I would put it off for a little while and then come back to it when you're healthier. Now, if you need to know any more about the pasteurization problem in America, I have it on my site at healthandhonesty.com, and it's called the Pasteurization Problem, and it also goes into other options in dairy. If you have a question, drop it in the comments below. If you have a comment or suggestion, you can email me at chrissy@healthandhonesty.com. Don't forget the .com, that's important. Or you can follow us at Twitter, Pinterest, or Facebook. Last but not least, let's do our question of the day. Let's be those 4 friends at the table talking about dairy. What kind of milk do you drink, if you do, and why? And things aren't always black and white. If you don't agree with me, that's completely fine. Please still put your opinion down. Don't forget to follow us, Health and Honesty, at pretty much everywhere. And thank you so much for spending time with us today. I'll see you next time.